Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Geoff Nunn. I'm a board advisor and corporate governance specialist. This afternoon, I'm going to talk to you about Royal Commissioner Kenneth Haynes' interim report into misconduct in the financial services sector. Anyone who's been following the hearings over the last 9 months won't be surprised by the contents of the report. They describe a sector consumed by the pursuit of profit with little regard for the impact on customers and the community generally. The findings are confronting, particularly for boards and executive teams. The prospect of criminal charges has been raised, and I'm sure some CEOs and directors are deeply concerned. When the interim report was released on the 28th of September, Anna Bligh, the Executive Director of the Australian Bankers Association, issued this statement. There are no excuses for the behaviour that's been exposed by the Royal Commission. Just last week, the Big Four bank CEOs fronted the House of Representatives Economics Committee. Andrew Thorburn, the NAB's CEO, conceded that the sector had started to lose its way about 20 years ago. The drive for financial returns overtook the concern for customers and has steadily increased in importance since that time. It's a very competitive marketplace. Their statements, together with the Royal Commission's interim findings, reveal the ethical malaise that's consumed the banking and financial services sector for the last 20 years. The strong focus on market capitalisation, profits and shareholder returns has caused the industry to lose its way in terms of corporate social responsibility. Chairs and boards of the major financial institutions have been remarkably silent during the Commission's hearing and in response to the interim report. They've left it to their CEOs to carry the can. But ultimately, accountability rests with the board for the issues that have been covered. Apart from anything else, the issues are major compliance and corporate governance concerns. Consider this quote from the Royal Commission's terms of reference. All Australians have the right to be treated honestly and fairly in their dealings with the banking, superannuation and financial services sector. The higher standards of conduct are critical to the good governance and corporate culture of the sector. We ask, have boards been diligent in this regard? Have they balanced the competing interests of different stakeholder groups effectively? Clearly the answer is no. Shareholder returns are important. Share ownership carries risk, and a fair return is a reasonable expectation, but not if it's achieved by the type of conduct that the Royal Commission has uncovered. Without doubt, boards and executive teams have a case to answer and much work to do. The Big Four banks achieved about 8 to 10% total shareholder return fairly consistently for the last 5 years and have been praised for doing so. Fairly strong results by any measure. Shareholder associations, as we know, can become very vocal when returns start to dip. But by chasing returns, we are all implicated, in part, in the issues that the Royal Commission's uncovered. The problems are systemic and deeply embedded in our ways of doing business. This comment from the Commissioner is revealing. One simple but telling observation informs these inquiries. All the conduct identified and criticised in this report was conduct that provided a financial benefit to the individuals and entities concerned. If there are exceptions, they are immaterial. For individuals, the conduct resulted in being paid more. For entities, the conduct resulted in greater profit. This week, Commonwealth Bank CEO Matt Comyn wrote to all customers, talking up the bank's moves to get its house in order. Yet a quick look at their 2018 annual remuneration report will tell you that whilst there's been some tinkering at the edges, the executive remuneration model is conceptually much the same. An FAR, STI, LTI configuration with 75% at risk and continued heavy weighting on financial metrics. The Commissioner discusses moves by the banks to implement the Sedgwick recommendations and remove performance-based remuneration from frontline staff. Some have done this. Others have changed their model and dropped the weighting on sales. He raises the question of whether the same should occur for executive remuneration packages. And we've been arguing this for some time, and it's clearly outlined in our submission to the Royal Commission dated the 22nd of April this year. It's a classic case of misalignment of structural systems and stated corporate intent. And by corporate intent, I don't mean the corporate intent to achieve shareholder returns. I mean the corporate intent, the stated corporate intent of the banks to be present for their customer base. Boards and executive teams need to abandon the current model of executive remuneration and go back to basics. The current structure in the major financial institutions and other organisations which follow a similar model, with its heavy weighting on financial performance, is reinforcing the negative behaviour that the Royal Commission has uncovered. Tinkering around the edges won't suffice, and impositions like the bear just seek to affirm the existing model. The issue of corporate culture is raised in the report, and this is an element of organisational existence which is widely talked about but not understood. Some banks have histories that go back over 100 years. Their value system and culture is deeply embedded in the collective psyche of the boards, executive teams and staff generally. And culture and values are not what appear on the websites or in their annual reports. That's window dressing. There's other deeper level stuff going on underneath, and this needs to be understood and worked with. Working with the board's a good starting point. They need to be engaged in effectively renewal work and give serious consideration of their own board dynamics. The 7th round of hearings and consideration of policy issues commences this month and will provide more substance and a direction forward. Thank you.